Enchanting, fun, challenging.
Mostly very nice.
Eclectic.
Truly incredible.
Snakes. They are feared by 50% of Americans. Misunderstood by many people, these creatures have been shunned and portrayed as malicious and evil. Culture and religion around the world have enforced the universal fear of snakes. This fear of snakes has been disappearing over time. This change has been due to the reptile enthusiasts exposing people to the reptiles through media. Before the world of computers, news was circulated by the press. In order to gain the attention of the press, someone had to be truly remarkable. One woman appeared regular in the media because of her odd interest in snakes. This one was Grace Olive Wiley. Grace Wiley took a stand against the common views of reptiles by exposing people to her vast collection of reptiles through media. She was featured in many types of media, ranging from daily headlines to the film industry, and allowed people to discover from hands-on experience the truth about the nature of reptiles. Little is known about Grace Wiley's early years. She was born at a small farm in Chanute, a town in the southwest corner of Kansas, in 1883. When Wiley was old enough to go to college, she left Chanute to attend the University of Kansas, KU. There she pursued a bachelor's degree in entomology, the study of insects. She became one of the first women to graduate college as a scientist. She decided to work at the college as an entomologist, despite the fact that she had little respect among her male co-workers. By the time Wiley had reached her early 30s, she was appointed as a professor at the KU, making her one of the first female professors in history. Shortly after, Grace Wiley discovered a newfound passion for herpetology, the study of reptiles, and began to collect snakes. She continued her studies at KU and traveled to Colorado, Utah, and Texas to collect unique insects. Her biggest discovery was published in 1922 when the KU Science Bulletin published the life history notes of two species of celatid, herpetologia, found in Kansas, a publication written by Wiley at her new species of beetle she had discovered and studied for several years. Her great discovery gained her respect among her male professors. Her dedication to her work paid off when she was finally recognized as a respectable scientist. One of her higher-ranking professors, H.B. Hungerford, even acknowledged Wiley's contribution in his large publication, The Life History of a Toad Bug. The live insects supplied by Miss Wiley from her home in Chanute thus made possible the notes he reported, and I wish to acknowledge my gratitude for her kindness. While Wiley continued her research at KU, she also expanded her personal collection of reptiles. In 1927, she released another publication that appeared in the journal titled The Canadian Entomologist about her discovery from another new species of beetle. This achievement furthered her career as an entomologist. On January 29, 1927, Wiley wrote a letter to John McCutcheon, the president of the Minneapolis Public Library's Natural History Museum, applying to be the curator of the reptiles for the zoo. She offered her share of her massive collection of reptiles, now containing 330 individual reptiles and 15 different species. Wiley was hired at the Minneapolis Public Library's Natural History Museum to be the curator of the reptiles section of the zoo. When hired, Wiley donated her collection of reptiles and the needed equipment for their care to be displayed in the section of the zoo. The news of her large collection spread fast among the press, who wrote articles about the surprising donation made by her unheard woman. The news granted Wiley a small amount of fame as a herpetologist, and it was the first step she took to becoming well known. Once she started her job, Grace Wiley would handle snakes like common household pets. She even chose to handle venomous snakes, such as her Egyptian cobras, in this way. Although she knew bites from these snakes could be fatal, she believed still that these reptiles could be tamed and were loving creatures. She would frequently stroke and talk to her snakes. Grace Olive Wiley claimed, "Somehow, they know very, very soon that I am friendly and like them. They appear to listen intently and stand quietly when I open their door and talk to them in a low, soothing voice. In some unknown manner, my idea of sympathy is conveyed to them." Wiley's actions caused controversy, raising tension to stop her from handling her deadly animals so freely. Administrators repeatedly asked Wiley to stop handling her snakes or use proper safety equipment while doing so. After repeatedly refusing her request, the administrator of the zoo gave her the choice to meet his demands or leave the zoo. Wiley would not let her job stop her from pursuing what she believed to be true. She took a stand and left the zoo after working there for over 2 years, taking with her entire reptile collection that she had gathered. Shortly after, the Brookfield Zoo hired Wiley. Located just outside of Chicago, Wiley moved her reptile collection to the Brookfield Zoo. The zoo was not worried about her handling methods until many snakes escaped and Wiley failed to report it. She had left a cage open and accidentally let out 19 snakes, including an Egyptian cobra. The administrator, Mr. Bean, who claimed to be deathly scared of snakes, happened to be visiting the zoo and was horrified. He testified saying that the snakes could have slithered out into the crowd. Wiley did not believe so. "I do not feel I was guilty of carelessness. I just simply forgot to close the door on the cobra's cage after I cleaned it. I couldn't do everything all at once. All the other snakes that got away were harmless except Bandy, and I'm sure he went down the drain pipe. The cobra," she added, "just found the coziest place that he could in the whole reptile house. If most persons were half as nice as snakes, the world would be a much better place." Bandy, her Egyptian cobra, was found shortly after his escape, but Mr. Bean had lost his patience with Wiley and fired her on September of 1935. The media did not waste time following these exciting series of events. Many headlines appeared starring the event of the cobra escaping. The newspaper included such titles as "Bandy found alive" and "19 snakes got away. Grace Wiley fired after snakes escaped." After losing her job, Wiley took her reptile collection with her to Cypress, California, where she started her own roadside zoo that she named Grace Wiley Reptiles. Inside, she would let crocodiles freely roam with the crowd. Her snakes, including venomous ones such as king cobras, copperheads, and rattlesnakes, were allowed to be held by anyone who asked, including small children. Access to the zoo was granted with a small fee of only 2 cents.
Time I've been educating others about snakes, so many people have seen that snakes aren't bad.
Usually if people are educated, they lose their fear or are more comfortable.
Wiley's strange zoo was a common topic for the press, causing her animals to gain constant recognition from the public. Wiley participated in the film industry as well. She acted as a snake wrangler who helped studios who would use snakes in their films. She appeared in classics including Tarzan, The Jungle Book, Trade Wind, and Cobra Woman. She even starred as a snake charmer in the film Moon Over Burma, released in 1940. Grace Wiley was finally able to treat her snakes as she wanted to, leading to many friendships with different venomous snakes. Wiley personally made sure to tame and hold her snakes, even when they were finicky. When first taken captive, most wild creatures are quite terrified and panicky. This was true for the rattlesnake that bit me, and yet on my return from the hospital, the same nervous fellow was tamed out without any trouble. It was done in 2 weeks, with only one hand. In 1948, Wiley's openness to media attracted photographer Daniel P. Mannix to her zoo for a photo shoot. Daniel and his wife, Jewel Mannix, were both writers and photographers who had taken an interest in Grace Wiley's strange hobby. At their photo shoot, Wiley chose to take photos of the cobra she had not yet tamed. The camera flash frightened the snake. The spook snake bit Grace Wiley on her index finger. Jewel Mannix describes the scene in her book Married to Adventure. We went over to Grace. She was standing holding her finger trying to squeeze the venom out. She was perfectly calm and immediately took command. "Jewel, will you please call Wesley Dickinson? He's a herpetologist and a friend of mine. He'll know what to do." She gave me his number. Then she suddenly turned in. "He didn't really bite me, did he?" she asked pleadingly. It was only emotion we saw her in. Jewel Mannix in the Married to Adventure. Grace's medical kit was rushed over to her, but in chaos the vial containing the antivenom was dropped and broken. She was quickly rushed to the hospital nearby, but to no avail. The hospital contained antivenoms of North American snakes only. Nothing could help the bite of the African American cobra. She died 2 hours later on July 20th, 1948, at the age of 64. Her roadside zoo, which had been open for 13 years, was shortly closed after her death. The cobra that bit Grace Wiley was given to her friend Wesley Dickinson, while the rest of the collection was auctioned off. The press was quick to report the news of Grace's death the next day, which titles such as "Cobra's Bite Kills Grace Wiley," former Brookfield curator. Grace Wiley was a remarkable herpetologist who changed the views of snakes by the public. She took a stand against the stereotypes of her time. She pursued her beliefs and earnest respect in the scientific field. She changed the perceptions and opinions people had about snakes. Wiley was not afraid to do what no one had done before, making her an important part of the history of herpetology. Her personality and dangerous hobby intrigued the press, making her constantly featured in articles and films. She gave people the chance to understand and learn and love reptiles. Wiley helped people gain access to experiences with reptiles and was the start of a revolution to change people's views on reptiles.
Do you think that it's wrong that people are scared of reptiles like this? Do you think they're misled?
Yes, oh, definitely.
Would you say that the fear in reptiles is misled?
Yes, especially when it's based around religion. I think a big thing about people who are fearful of snakes think that, oh, it's cursed, or I'm gonna be cursed by touching the snake. But I think it's rather an irrational fear, because it's all in your head. When the majority of snakes are not going to hurt you, or they're not even going to hiss at you.
I think the common fear of reptiles is understandable given the way humans have developed and how they've had to interact with them through history.
Right.
But I think it can be a little silly in modern humans, and I hate it when people hold on to a fear without at least finding out if the animals are nice, especially if someone's holding it. Obviously, it's pretty friendly.
The fear of snakes is cultivated. We are not born with it. Children love snakes as naturally as they love dogs and cats. Don't be afraid of a reptile's tongue. The only animal that can hurt you with its tongue is a human being.